So guys, be mindful that he says reasonable, right? Now, look, I'm not gonna tell you that I wasn't needy. This message got through without even me knowing that it got through. And the reason why I would send this one is because I thought this didn't go through. But the most compromising message that I would send would be the most compromising thing I would ever tell that girl would be like, I'm not scared of the police. That would be the most compromising thing. And obviously like now, the fact that I went to court and everything, this gains meaning by then. But in the past, like, I mean, just think about it. What the fuck does the DEA have anything to do with this case? It was just something that I said at the time of like, oh, I didn't care. It was my man ego saying I didn't care. Now obviously, no one's going to want to mess with the FBI or the CIA. It was just me saying that then. So yeah, again, I thought this didn't go through. I had my Facebook deactivated at the time. So I ended up sending her this one. This is just me being needy. And then this was the first one that I would send her after the campus police told me not to send her anything. I was upset at the time because I was accused of like following some girl to some dorm. That never happened, and so I called her out on it. But again, be mindful that I'm not at the time making any threats. And then this was the one that she sent me to court for. That finally, like, I guess, gave it in. This would be the one that she would finally take, like, wrap it up and take it to court and take to like the student board to try to like get me expelled. So again, be mindful that it says reasonable fear of death, right? Now, stalking is a misdemeanor class 6, which means that it's right up under a felony, and in a way, it's an impediment for my progress. An impediment, like I can't even go back to school. I got expelled. My immigration documents got taken, which is why I had to accept a plea deal. Which is why I had to take the plea deal, because I had to get out within a 90-day window. So it's like, I haven't said that. They think that I took a plea deal because I was guilty of stalking her, because she would accuse me later on of like being parked at a public parking spot that's free for students because of her, and it had nothing to do with that. It had to do more with the fact that I was just simply broke. So I'm not saying that I didn't contribute. All I'm saying is that this has been tremendously blown out of proportion, and I feel like she isn't even aware of like what she's done. It's like, oh, I got him out of school. I won't see him anymore, and like I feel happy about that. Like, and I'm not saying that that's how she feels, although it's easy for me to assume based on how far she would go out of her way just for a couple messages. Like I have sisters, and none of my sisters would like, and like none of my, I have sisters, and none of my sisters would go far out of the way to like, I don't know, my sisters just won't take anyone to court for like them emailing them. Most girls are just like aloof to that. Like if they don't care, they're indifferent towards it. They look at it and they're like, okay, whatever, and move on. But she didn't. So I'm wondering, like, where's her anger coming from? Where's her hate coming from? And I wouldn't get this until like a whole year later, once I get taken to jail, that I had been taking on behaviors that maybe reminded her of her ex, which is Karim Azimi Yusuf, which is, I'm not sure if this is the guy that has been sending cars around my house in the past, thinking that I've been stalking her. And again, I can't conceive of a woman who would take someone to court, ruin their life, get them expelled from school at the last year, try to get them deported based off of messages, like. And like every encounter in school, she would just like call the campus police, say, oh, he's here, he's at Fenway Library, he's at food court. These are high traffic areas. It's like, it's not like she saw me where she worked. It's not like she saw me at her social gatherings. It's not like she saw me anywhere outside of campus. All the encounters happen on campus. When I met her back in 2018, like I ended up leaving class because of the accusation of them saying that I'd been following some girl to some dorms, just because. I don't know, like I asked this classmate a while back, like, hey, what's wrong with her? That would be the only question that I would ask this classmate as I was leaving class, and I would be referring to Myra. But they would like blow that up to like me following her to some dorm. And I asked the campus police to check, to investigate, to look behind that. They never did that. they also never checked behind the fact that she apparently said that I was approaching her daughter. I guess I wouldn't understand why she would say that. I don't know if she was trying to make me look like a pedophile. I don't understand. I mean, I have a clean criminal record. Clearly, Yusuf or Karim, that's a different story. So I'm wondering. So at the same time, so I'm wondering, could it be that she's just projecting? So look, guys, let's go ahead and let's go back. So look, guys, let's go back to 2018 when I met this girl. Let's go back to the beginning. Hold on. So look, I ended up meeting this Myra girl back in spring of 2018 in this art class, and just from like the start, I mean, I liked her. You know, and I think it was like the second day or so, we ended up walking to Fenway Library. I got her number. I remember she told me like 5 times, like, hey, you know, text me, don't call me. And, you know, after leaving that, just like, after leaving the whole situation, like, I looked back at it and like, I just saw her demeanor. She was like, I saw her demeanor, like the way that she gave me her phone number, and it was like, she was like throwing it at me, you know. And so like, I was offended by it. I ended up deleting the number. I never ended up communicating that with her. So where I'm going with this is that there was a lot of improper communication and a lot of opportunity for the wrong perception to be formed. And so I never told her that about that. And so just from that, like, and so from that moment on, like, a bunch of like things would like spiral out of control, just because, again, not that that was the beginning of like of where our perceptions on things would shift, but like, that's one of the little things, you know, of several other things. And so, you know, just looking back, like, I remember like a month passed after spring break, and I ended up emailing her, and that would like trigger several things that like would turn out to be, I don't know. At the time I saw it as like overreaction, but it wouldn't be like until like a whole year later that when I'm in jail that I'm listening to this guy named Foolie, which was my like cellie, the guy that I like shared a cell with, and he was looking at my documents, and he's like, yo, I know that girl. And he would end up telling me like, oh, you know, Yusuf, her ex, he used to beat the shit out of her, and he used to pay his friends to like stalk her, which is something that she would say, and he would laugh at it because he's like, and he even hired private detectives, you know. And then I started to think about it, because back prior to me getting locked up, like, I remember like I accused her in one of the emails of like her like setting me up or lying about me popping up in different places, because the campus police would tell me that I kept popping up in different places. At the time I didn't get it, but what she was specifically referring to was, after she told me I'm keeping my distance from you, after I emailed her without, again, I never told her that I deleted her number, I would still want her, and which is like kind of like contradictory, right? And so I ended up like emailing her, and like that would really trigger her. And so like, I thought at the time like she was lying about me popping up, and so from that point on, she's like, I'm keeping my distance from you. And what would follow would be like a weird chance of like encounters that like was followed up back in spring of 2019 when I saw her at Panera Bread. And again, my attorney, terrible attorney, she wasn't even able to prove the fact that I was in Panera Bread, just because like I bought stuff there, you know, online from remote locations. And let me just go ahead and show you guys. The one in blue, that's the day that I saw Myra there. So yeah, there was like a bunch of like weird encounters that like happened that happened, and again, I wouldn't think about it until like I would get locked up, what she would mean by me popping up. And she specifically referred to, after she told me I'm keeping my distance, and again, I contributed to it, I'm aware, I would like see her at Argo Tea when her daughter was coming out of the restroom, and she was following, and she was like right behind her, and I'm waiting in line, right, to be helped. I used to like buy coffee there. It's a coffee shop right outside Fenway Library, which again is pretty convenient. And so there was a child, and so I saw like a child, right, her daughter, that was like about 5 feet away from me, looking at some items that were for sale there. And so Myra would look at her, and she looked at me, and she gave me like a salty look, you know. And so I'm thinking, crap, you know, she's going to start assuming things, and that would end up being reported as like me approaching her daughter, you know. Again, an assumption that would like an assumption that was made that later on I would ask the campus police to check for, because it wasn't true. It's like she saw her daughter there, she saw me there, and she assumed. And what they would respond would be like, no, just keep your distance away from her, and that would come back and bite me in the ass. So look, then the other time would be the final time, which was when I saw her. No, the second time would be on the second floor whenever I went, whenever I was coming down from the fourth floor. Obviously I can't see her from the fourth floor down, but like I was coming down from the fourth floor at Family Library, and there was the only desktop that was open was the one that was in front of her. Be mindful that this is after she tells me I'm keeping my distance from you, and I go ahead and sit down. I print my stuff. She leaves. She's with this girl. I wasn't sure if that's her sister or whatever. And then I go ahead and I leave, grab the stuff that I printed, and head back up to the fourth floor. Then there will be the third encounter, which was the lobby. I would perceive that as the second time, because I'm thinking, whoa, I keep noticing this girl everywhere here. She told me, to keep my distance. I want to see what she means, what's going on. Like, if I offended her that badly with me sending her that email, I want to go ahead and apologize for it. So I approach her and I ask her what was wrong. At the time, I remember she's like, oh, no one cares for me. And so, like, I was like, yeah, dude. I mean, and so I was like, that's not true. Like, what's up, And so she would end up telling me, like, dude, I need you to keep your distance from me. No, and so what would come from that is like her telling me, dude, if you approach me one more time, I'm going to call the cops on you. And sure enough, like right there and then, like a couple hours later, she ended up like calling the cops and accusing me of like following some girl to the dorms, which would be a black girl from back at our arts class. That was like, I don't even know where that emerged from, because the only time that I spoke to that classmate, the only time that I spoke to that classmate was twice. It was like once in spring, once after the spring semester, once after like spring break, when I would ask her like, hey, where's Myra? And she's like, oh, I don't know, she's been missing around the same time that you have, because we stopped seeing each other for like a month, which is whenever I thought she was gone, which is why I ended up emailing her, because I'm like, yo, I played it too cool, like I actually like this girl. And so I was stupid, And so the second time would be whenever like she would tell me, hey, I'm keeping my distance from you, and the way she said it just in front of everyone, I was just genuinely embarrassed. And as I was walking out, I asked that black girl, hey, what's wrong with her? It's not that I genuinely meant that, but it was more of like a way of changing, like, I don't know, like the mood. And so it was just me being a bitch, but like that would apparently turn out to be where like, oh, he's following her to her dorm, something that wasn't entirely true, So that's what she would mean by like me popping up in different places. She would refer to like the lobby, the time that like the incident of her daughter, which again, totally not true. And I'm not even aware if she's like conscious of like the severity of like these accusations, because right now like I can't go anywhere, and it's like if I don't speak, if I don't voice my opinion, it's like who will? Like if I'm too quiet right now, it's like I'm paying too much for something that I didn't do. But like if I go out on a public venue such as this, like it's like he's doing too much. So what too much am I going to do of? And that's like the dilemma that I've been in. But going back to what I was saying, that's what she would mean by like me popping up. At the time, like I just saw it as like her trying to be deceptive, and like I called her out on it. I could have handled the situation like a lot better. I didn't. And so yeah, I remember like I ended up leaving that semester from that class. And it would be like a couple months after when I would email her. Really where I messed up is the fact that I continued to email her after being told not to. That's where I messed up. But where I feel that she went wrong, and this is not about who's wrong or right. It's like my perception. It's like I know where I went wrong, but here's where I was coming from, And I feel the need to address that, because I remember prior to like me going to court, like my sister emailed her, like, hey, my brother is at Panera Bread, he's not there because of you. And so like I don't know, like she ended up like saying something about she was in love with a delinquent, or her ex was a delinquent, and Myra's like, oh, instead of doing some research on me, just go ahead and like basically worried about me, that like I was stalking her. And again, be mindful that she never saw me like around her friends, or she never saw me anywhere outside of school. She never saw me go by her work. She never saw me go by her house. Yet Karim Azimi Yusuf has paid people to come around my house after I got out of jail on September 26th. And without even knowing that the reason why I got out is because I ended up accepting a plea deal, not because I wasn't able to defend myself, but because I had improper representation, and I couldn't make a continuation for improper representation because that would have gone beyond the 90-day window, and I was at day 66. So I had to accept what was there. And It was between getting deported, or taking the plea deal for something that you didn't do and trying to see how you come out of that. Because at the same time, it's like a stalker. It's a misdemeanor, class 6 is right up under a felony. I've gotten expelled. There's been like $40,000 that have been lost in this case, and so it's all for like 5 messages, and my stubbornness to continue, and her stubbornness to believe that, hey, he's genuinely stalking. And at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, I'm not. And it's me trying to like clarify that. It's like me trying to say, and again, I'm not a professional, but it's like after going to jail and talking to Alam or Foolie, it's like I'm clearly seeing someone who has traumas, and my behavior, my aggressive and defensive behavior, which in a way is self-explanatory and self-incriminating, because it's like, why am I being defensive if I haven't done anything? So it's easy for her ex to go in and say, oh, he's being defensive because he's been following you, when in reality I'm being defensive because I haven't been following her, and I feel offended and I feel upset, that someone would accuse me of that. That's where my defensive and aggressive behavior has came from. And again, not smart. I could have responded instead of reacted, but that's where it came from. And so the reason why I say that is because like an incident would take place down at University Drive, which was a place that I was parked purely for financial reasons. I was broke, and so it was a convenient place. It was the only place that I know of that is free parking. She would perceive me coming out one day, like I'm looking at her shortly after encountering her in Panera Bread this year. I would come out and I would like squint. I need some glasses, and like it was her, And so as I'm leaving University Drive, she's there. So it's easy for her to assume that I was there because of her, I guess. I don't know.